thank you so much for joining me. This is especially exciting because as I preface this, when you and I had spoke, you had mentioned that you had more than 10x your revenue during COVID. And that, the month of May has been one of the most successful Mays that you've had in firm history. I think you mentioned revenue had increased almost 900%. So this is going to be something that, it's a very proactive discussion. I'm sure people are going to be wondering, what has she been up to in her practice? Because you guys are doing everything from family law to wills and estate planning and even criminal defense. And you mentioned that it's been up almost across the board. So I guess as we go into this, just first and foremost, what do you attribute all that to?
I think the biggest part of it all was my mindset. Early March hit and we were looking at, we'd already had a pretty low February month. Mm-hmm. And, when COVID hit and everything started shutting down, I'll admit there was a few, moments of, oh crap, what are we going to do now? We were already struggling a little bit and now people aren't going to be purchasing services. And, I listen to a lot of Hal Elrod. And so I'm a firm believer in that 5 minutes. You get to, whine and complain for 5 minutes, and then you got to sit down and figure out what you're going to do to move forward. And that's just what I did. COVID for me actually allowed me to see where all the weaknesses were in the business, where I was being told things were being done and they weren't. And so I've been able to really sit down and just tighten up the reins on things and move forward.
Now, I know you mentioned earlier to me that I think it was by mid-April, things were looking pretty grim, and there was something you did at the end of April that not only helped you gain a lot of clarity, but then helped you really turn things around as you headed into May.
Yeah, and in May, I'd had a lot of struggle with getting staff on board and just trying to figure out where we were going to go. And we had actually kind of moved more into more of a sales position for my staff than what they were used to. Mm-hmm. And so in probably late April, I sent an email to them and just asked them certain questions of, what is it that you like? What is it that you don't like about what you're doing? If you had a choice, what would you do going forward? And just had them really buy in. Also created a very clear culture statement and sent that out to them. And we had one-on-one conversations and talked about where they were going and how things were going for them and why they think they had any blocks in what they were doing. And just, really had I'll say my staff was on fire in those. It was like they were really buying in at that point.
Mm-hmm. And it was really just because you'd reached out and kind of asked, right? Like,
yeah.
How are you doing? What have you accomplished? Is there anything that's frustrating you? How can I help you? And it's amazing that you just asking those simple questions, the amount of feedback that you got back.
Yeah, it really was. And we've always had a culture of being very open and them coming to me. But I'd noticed that when we went virtual and we weren't in the office, that wasn't happening. Mm-hmm. And so since that email was sent and we had those conversations, we've had a lot more communication and things have opened up. Mm-hmm. And they became really excited about the business again.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on that note, what have been some of the things that you've done just proactively? I know you guys have been doing a lot of the Facebook Lives every week. You've been appearing on some podcasts. What have been some of the areas almost of outreach that you've been doing?
So it's been a lot of, I had a lot of in-person speaking arranged in early March, and obviously all of those got shut down. Mm-hmm. But I've been able to find, Zoom speaking engagements with groups. And the Facebook Live has been, probably the most successful. That's, people tend to see that, and then I think it makes them more comfortable reaching out to me and just, hey, this is a person I want. And I know that the conversion rate for the ones that actually call and make an appointment is, I think we're sitting at about 85%.
Wow.
So they've already pretty much made the decision before they've talked to me. Mm-hmm. Just having my face out there and, providing the information without asking for anything in return, I think is really making people a lot more comfortable, especially in the area of family law and probate.
Now, I mentioned you weren't doing a whole lot of this prior to COVID? I know you mentioned you started the Facebook Live. What was really the impetus behind that? And I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to watch this and say, well, I'd like to do one that sounds nice, but maybe they wonder if they have anything to say, or that people would actually be interested in what they have to say.
Yeah, it's actually evolved. It started out as Facebook. Hey, this will be a forum. People can just send me the questions or join me live and ask me live on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't happening so much. And so I just started doing kind of a COVID update with the courts and what's happening as far as cases at the beginning of every Facebook Live. And then I just discuss a topic of interest for my practice areas. Mm-hmm. And that seems to have gotten a lot of people watching that. And I would say my first video or my first Facebook Live probably had 2 or 3 people on it. And now, I'll have probably 15 to 20 that watch it. And then within 2 or 3 hours of posting it, there's probably another 90 to 100 people that have watched it.
Yeah, what you just highlighted, I think, is an area that I think sometimes people miss when they think about something like a Facebook Live. So they see, well, not a whole lot of people are watching it live, but oftentimes within an hour, within a day, you'll see several hundred that have watched it after you've gone live. So I think it's oftentimes less about how many people are watching in that exact moment versus how many watch it overall.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't do that. I don't look good on video." I was like, "Who cares? Just do it and be out there and be authentic." That's what people want to see. I hear a lot that, "Oh, you're so approachable and a surprised voice," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm a person. I'm a human." Mm-hmm. Just because I have the attorney title doesn't change who I am.
Mm-hmm. So now, I guess the experience that you've had, what have been some of the biggest learning lessons over the last few months?
The biggest for me is just, it really is important to be very, very present in your business. Mm-hmm. Before I was really trying to build things up and was out of the office a lot, networking and, going to events, and just trusted that everything was being done the way I thought it was being done. And just being present since COVID, it's reduced travel time, obviously. So I've had a lot more time to really dive in and get things set up the way I want it, so it's done the same every time.
Mm-hmm. And how has the team then since responded? It seems like they're much more aligned now than they were even prior to this, and then even when you guys first went remote.
Yes. And fortunately for us, living in a hurricane-prone area, we're already pretty much digital. Mm. I don't like having paper in the office because I don't want it scattered everywhere if we have a hurricane. And I'm very big on privacy for the clients. So we were already digital. So transferring home wasn't difficult in that manner, but the mindset and getting people motivated when we're not in the office and you're not feeding off the energy was probably the biggest challenge. And they have, once I asked them to take ownership, they have stepped up.
Mm-hmm. Now, I always try to address like the skeptic who's going to watch any of this and will say that must be nice, that that her situation's unique to her, that wouldn't work in my market, wouldn't work in my practice area, because as you've talked about these things now, like you've had much more consistent appointments. I think you mentioned like 8-10 appointments booked per week, revenues up 900%, all these things, and we're talking about things like Facebook Lives and some of the virtual events that you presented at. But I guess, what would you say to the person who's watching that and is skeptical, to kind of put yourself in their shoes?
I was probably that person for a long time. And I actually resisted doing Facebook Lives and the social media. But just seeing the effects that it's had and how easy it is, it really takes less than probably 45 minutes to do the video and share it all over the place and have other people share it. And it's really it's not about what's in the videos necessarily. It's about putting your face out there with who you are so that people feel like they know you when they call you. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really making sure that your name is familiar.
And just a final question as we wrap this up, looking ahead to the future, I guess through the rest of the year, let's say the next 6 months or so, how do you believe your practice will evolve?
We are looking at doing some more subscription services.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be something new, and I believe it's just going to keep growing. We're adding a new staff member today to handle the increase. Hopefully we're going to be adding an attorney or two in the next few months. So I just see it continuing to grow.
Has it been easier to hire?
There's more choices for hiring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that hiring ever gets easier because you want to make sure you get the right person.
Yes. Awesome. Duana, thank you very much. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
You too. Thank you.